Welcome to a football show Thursday edition. His name is Zach Lyons. My name is Braden Gall, and we appreciate you joining us. So if you're with us on the live stream, on Twitter, on YouTube, we really do appreciate you guys. Jump into the comments. We will answer any questions you guys have about the final preseason game for the Tennessee Titans. We've also got week 0 in college football to get to, some sports washing on Netflix. Maybe I might just throw that in at the end, Zach, because I'm kind of
let me say this. I
pissed
ain't
off
watching
about
it.
it.
I'm not watching it because I have heard and read all the tweets that stuff that they decided not to cover on the Urban Meyer thing, and the Tim Tebow, the Aaron Hernandez. Like, what are they even talking about for all these episodes? Are they just clips of Tim Tebow leading Bible studies or something? Like, give me a fucking break. I ain't spending time watching after, and I can even talk about the good, juicy topics. They're not good in nature, but that's what you watch for. That's what you watch for a documentary.
Many things, in fact, went untold. So maybe it was perhaps it's a perfectly named documentary. No, I'm just kind of pissed off about the sports washing of Urban Meyer. We'll get to that later on. We're gonna focus a lot. I think there's some positive stuff because there are some negative stories we need to talk about. Malik Willis, the kicking situation, the injuries with Kyle Phillips. Like, there are some things that are worth concern if you're a Titans fan. I also want to make sure we talk about some of the things that are positive in nature, namely number 10. So we're going to get to that. A lot of stuff. We got a whole practice report from Thursday for you guys and a look ahead at the Patriots match. I got to start. And by the way, thank you to our wonderful and amazing sponsors, Sinkers Beverages, the Kingston Group. Of course, Sinkers is in East Nashville. They are the reigning liquor store of the year in Nashville, Tennessee. So, and you can go and sign up for the in-crowd, all kinds of cool stuff. You guys know the drill, but also you can search Uber Eats. You put the name Sinkers in there. They will deliver the booze directly to your house.
They drive so you could drink.
There you go. But more importantly, Bluegrass Beverages, proud sponsor of football and other F words, their 50th anniversary celebration coming up on September 2nd. It is open to the public. It is for free, as we say. And there's going to be like 8 or 10 breweries, food trucks, all kinds of fun stuff up there. We're trying to get Mike Herndon to show up. Basically, I'm going to try to publicly push for Mike Herndon to just take a break from the family, bring the wife and the kid out, drink some beer,
take
watch
a break
some
from the
football.
family, but bring them.
No, take a break. Sorry. Take a break from the obligations and like give the wife and the child an hour to take a deep breath and enjoy some fresh air, hopefully not 112-degree weather, and watch some college football, drink some beer, have some food.
Sounds like you're volunteering babysitting. Just throwing that out there.
I would be happy to if I wasn't at the Tennessee-Virginia game. I'd be happy to do that. But no, 50th anniversary celebration of serving the Hendersonville community. Great community liquor store up there. So make sure you support them and come on out. You guys come out. And we got other events too. There's like a mini like wine and bourbon tasting event that's going to happen later in the month up at Bluegrass to celebrate their 50th anniversary. It's kind of like a teenage girl that celebrates like their entire birthday for like a month and a half. That's kind of what Bluegrass is. It's like a sorority girl celebrating. Oh, I get a whole month for my birthday. Bluegrass 50th anniversary. They get a whole month. That's how they do it. And I'm totally fine with that. So, okay, go check them out. And then Kingston Group, of course, buildkg.com. You know the deal. Don't make any decisions about your house until you talk to the Kingston Group. Just have a conversation. I've been told we might need to spruce up the language a bit. We've been saying the same thing about the Kingston Group for like 3 years now. And if you're going to have somebody help you with your home, better be the Kingston Group, folks. All right. I know you guys just talked about this, you and Herndon, on F words about the special teams. And I'm going to go more Mike Vrabel, Rand Carthon here, and even John Robinson to some degree, where I know you have a very soft spot in your heart for Craig Aukerman.
Yeah, he shouldn't. I mean, at the end of the day, the stats don't lie.
Let me see how can I say this? I think that Mike Vrabel is going to have final say on the roster, although I don't think that's been settled. And I
put it as, I don't know if you were still listening, but we put it as a 1A, 1B. Like 1A is Mike Vrabel, but it's really a collaborative effort. But final tie-breaking say goes to Mike Vrabel.
And I'll just let me see how I can say this. I am going to be interested to watch how Ran and Mike work together on these decisions moving forward. I'm just going to leave that there for a second, because one of the first things they are facing outside of signing DeAndre Hopkins, re-signing Jeffrey Simmons, has been this kicker thing. And it's not just a Ran Carthon thing. This is with John Robinson. The hubris that Mike Vrabel and the rest of the Titans organization writ large has presented to its fans about the kicker position is very frustrating to me. I have seen it like I said it on the very first day of practice. I said they are going to try to outsmart the rest of the NFL with Caleb Shudak and Trey Wolf. And then 2 weeks before the season starts, you cut them both. And you hire Michael Badgley. Now, Badgley didn't perform well on Wednesday. On Thursday, he was 10 of 10. He made every kick.
Yeah, hey, listen, as long as they're inside for every game, he's going to be a great kicker for the Tennessee Titans, because it's not like they have an outdoor stadium or anything.
Oh, yeah. He made every kick until they got to the 2-minute drill, and he missed one of two. And it was 53 yards, so it was a long distance. But that's not the point. My point is, and I tweeted this at Herndon, and I've said this literally for 2 consecutive camps. You probably could go back 3 camps. When you draft Brady Breeze, Luke Falk, and Cole McDonald, quarterbacks in particular that have a very, very, very small percentage chance of making the roster or even having any impact on your franchise whatsoever in that position, versus potentially drafting the best kicker. Invest resources in the position, and they have continually ignored investing resources in the position. And it is so frustrating to watch it play out in real time at the beginning of camp, saying this is what they're going to do, and then 2.5 weeks through, watching them, in my opinion, panic, cut both of them, and try to bring somebody off the street. It makes no sense. It is total hubris, and thinking that they can outsmart the entire NFL. It makes no sense to me, because it's very antithetical to what Mike Vrabel is, which is
what I was about to say.
Like he is about thinking long term and short term and developing and having a plan and being. It is so against like the Mike Vrabel way, and it frustrated me on day 1 of minicamp.
It's against the Patriots way. Like, right? I mean, let's think about the Patriots and how many kicks and Super Bowls how many Super Bowl rings does Mike Vrabel have because of Adam Vinatieri? And because of Steve Gostowski?
All of them?
I mean, give me a break. And it's crazy to me that a guy like Mike Vrabel, a coach like Mike Vrabel, who literally preaches about the worth of special teams to a winning formula. It's part to a winning formula for a football team. And it has built a team currently we don't really know how many winning margins, how many points they're going to win by now in this year. But a team that has such a thin margin for error that we have talked about continues to put themselves in this situation. This isn't Caleb Shudak's fault. This isn't Tucker McCann's fault. This isn't Tucker McCann. You can't forget that UDFA.
McCann.
It's not Trey Wolf's fault.
No,
it is the fault of the staff that has decided that A, Craig Ackerman can develop them, or B, we think they're just much better than everybody else thinks, like you said. And at some point, because I put in the tweet, this is a four-headed monster of blame. And that is the blame starting with John Robinson, who had total control of the roster from everything that we know. He had like 90% control, you could say. So it starts with him. And then it's like infects Mike Vrabel. And then it infects Craig Ackerman. And now it's infected Ran Carthon, because right now someone needs to put their foot down and say, Michael Badgley's not good enough. It wasn't good enough, right? None of this is just good enough. Ultimately, that's the point. And you guys have been there, and from everybody on the ground, maybe it wasn't the first week. Maybe it took some of you guys were on it the first week of pretty much whatever week you guys saw the kickers first start going out there, and I think it was training camp. I don't think you guys really saw them in OTAs, but I could be mistaken on that.
I said it last year. I said
right, but I'm just
same
talking
sentence.
about these specific two guys.
Okay, all right. Sorry. I'm very frustrated.
Yeah, so I'm talking about these specific two guys. I don't know when they started kicking in front of the masses, but I feel like it was either at the end of OTAs or the beginning of training camp.
Yeah.
But the first week is when you start hearing all these rumblings that these guys aren't good, and you have been on it to begin with anyway. But I mean, there are other people in the media have been expouting it to whatever social platform. And then 2 weeks later, pretty much everybody agrees that the kicker is not on this roster. And, I told you guys, when you were all bringing this up and everybody was talking about this, like they are going to run, that these guys have to lose the job. And I don't know if that's a good strategy or not, like I said at the time. Likely not. And I think we both agree this was a little silly. But they were going to lose the job. They weren't bringing in a veteran. And then they both lost the job. And now they're bringing in some other guy. And I kind of get the feeling in the sense they were just done with Trey Wolf and Caleb Shudak, and they need a kicker for Friday.
Yeah.
And I think that once Friday's over, Michael Badgley's going to be off the roster. They're going to sign someone else that got cut. Maybe that ends up being a Nick Folk. But if it's Chad Ryland, go listen to the practice reports from Patriots camp. It ain't much better with Chad Ryland.
This is a hard thing to solve at this point. Could you find a guy that and this is largely my issue and it's also, and I think you kind of alluded to this with Herndon on F Words, where you said it's also how the Titans play football. If you're going to play football a certain way, which is, we know what Mike Vrabel wants to do,
margin of error.
If you're going to play games like that, you better have somebody to push you over the top on that thin margin of error. This is a years-long problem that could have been fixed very easily by investing a 6th-round pick in a very good kicker. Now, I'm not saying that they guarantees that you get.
Why not sign Brandon McManus when he gets magically cut?
I don't disagree with you.
They get gift wrapped. They are gift wrapped players all the time, and then they refuse to dive into them. Whether it's not just kicker, there's wide receivers get cut, and they're just like, "Well, we're better." Hey, listen, this is an extreme example, but hey, Cody Hollister is better than anybody that just got cut. Like, that's not true. That's just not true. It's like, that to me just drives me nuts. And it's like this, and they're taking something off the table. Right. So I talk about this on Football and Other F Words today, is what they are doing. And you saw it last year. They're scared to death to kick anything over 50. Like, it's almost like if they call, it's 1 out of 10 4th down play calls outside of 50 yards, they're not kicking it. They're going to punt it. Like, they may kick it once or twice a year. Okay. They're eliminating an entire option out of their playbook. Like, they're eliminating points themselves. And it's been like this since 2018.
Yep. I don't want to blame. So I think you're right to blame Craig Aukerman for the special teams issues across the board as a whole. I don't think like this particular situational problem that they have right now is his fault. This is Mike Vrabel.
Don't you think it's his fault that he can't develop anybody?
Maybe, but I honestly think on the first day of camp, when we looked at 2 kickers, and I looked at one guy who's like, a beanpole, and the other guy's like 5'4", and I was looking around people, I'm like, this is who they're going with? Like, this is, and it's not to say that.
Question about this as well. While we're on this topic,
I just put this on. I'll wrap this up quickly. I just put this on Vrabel because it was John Robinson before with Vrabel. Now it's Rand Carthon with Vrabel. What's the common denominator? Mike Vrabel. It's right. Mike, and I normally don't put anything on him in terms of a major mistake. I'm not saying he's perfect, but to me, they walked into camp. And it's one of those where you should have known better or you should have done something about it. Either way, like, it's either ignorance or malpractice. And either way, you're wrong.
Right.
And so at some point you went into camp thinking that you probably had your guy with one of those 2. And it just felt like you were trying to outsmart the NFL. And
fully agree with you.
I put it on Mike Vrabel. The development of the kicker. I don't know I don't know if one special teams coach can make somebody go from a bad undrafted free agent, nobody who gets cut, to like an actual
But
Kicker,
drafted
I don't
free
know.
agents become kickers all the time. I mean, I think if you looked across the league, I think most of the kickers are undrafted free agents.
True.
So someone developed them.
True. What I mean is I think you either have it or you don't as a kicker. I'm not sure. Like, there's like
do you think it helps that this is what I want to kind of get into, because I know that the holder and the snapper, the long snapper, have to kind of adjust for each guy, right? Because they're two entirely different physical specimens.
Yes, very much so.
Don't you kind of think that maybe that kind of stunts this entire process as well? Like, I feel like that's just a bad. Like, maybe you should have had 2 short kickers or 2 tall kickers or something. Like, it just feels like it's not like, it just feels like maybe.
Are you a heightist? Is that what you're saying?
No, not really. What I'm saying is like, if the long snapper and the holder cannot get into a rhythm, then wouldn't it be hard for the kickers to find rhythm as well?
I see what you're saying. I think
kind of a trickle down effect.
I think Cox and Stonehouse can go from snap to hold, snap to hold, snap to hold, snap to hold as fast and as efficiently as possible, no matter what happens.
Gotcha.
And it's on the kicker, who has his own body length and steps. Like, his steps, again, like Wolf's steps are different than Shudek's steps in terms of how they approach the kick. So I actually don't think that that's that big of a deal. I think there's separate things within that act, I think, of a kick. I just don't think either one of them was good enough. And my problem is that they should have obviously seen that and known that and addressed the issue with a more substantially thought out plan. That's all. And it's not the first year we've said that. It's the second year we've said that. And it could cost you a couple of games this year.
Second year we said it. It feels like it's been like the 4th year we've said it.
It could cost you a division championship.
Yeah, because, I mean, Ryan Suckup is not a solution. Right, Ryan Suckup was worse than Randy Bullock in field goal percentage last year, so he's not a solution. I mean, Riley Patterson is just a few steps up above Michael Badgley, and Riley Patterson may get cut, but like, he's a few steps above Michael Badgley and Randy Bullock last year. The same thing with probably Mason Crosby is probably your silver lining, Mason Crosby or Nick Folk, but they're also really, really old. Like, when does the bottom fall out for those guys? And if it's likely going to happen at Tennessee, if it's going to happen anywhere.
I will tell you, as a Packers fan who's watched every game in 35 years, I did not trust Mason Crosby last year or the year before that.
Yeah.
So
like, it's just,
he might be better than what they have, but
Brandon McManus getting cut was a godsend for the Tennessee Titans, and now he's going to be over at a divisional rival. And if the Jaguars play the Titans and the Titans, it will be
in the last game of the season.
It will be worse
Nissan Stadium.
It will be worse than the reaction of Todd Downing getting into DUI and everybody wanting Todd Downing gone. It'll be worse than Ryan Tannehill throwing 3 picks. If Brandon McManus somehow wins the game because Michael Badgley missed 2 kicks or whoever the kicker is, it's over for like Craig Ackerman. I mean, that is just like, he's got to go. I mean, I know it's maybe not his fault, but he has to go.
Donnie D, abolish the kicker, defund the kicker.
I'm with you.
That's what Vrabel's been doing, abolishing the kicker and defunding the kicker. That's what he's been doing. Unfortunately, it can win you some games. So, all right, do we want to do something positive now, since we just spent so much time being negative? Let's do something positive, and then we'll go back to the negative, and then we'll go back to the positive. Sinkers Beverages, of course, the Kingston Group. We do appreciate your local support. Those are 2 great local businesses, so make sure you support them as well. Rate, review, and subscribe to the show. Share the product with somebody. We do appreciate all you guys sort of acting as the army out there. We do appreciate it. Stackingtheinbox.com. You guys know the drill there, as well as football and other F words. So, okay. I Herndon said this and on Twitter, by the way, and I'm still going to call it that. I know you're trying not to, but you still do occasionally. I think, and it was me and Koharski.
I love it because you guys refuse to call it that, even though
I refuse.
I love it because it just grates your skin.
It's fine. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm
then you would call it that. You wouldn't be a little coward and still call it Twitter.
So Koharski and I were talking about this in a red zone drill on Thursday, and Herndon, I think, I can't remember when he set out his tweet about how even without Traylon Burks and Kyle Phillips, the Titans will be better off in their receiving core or pass catching weapons is maybe what he said. And we were watching red zone drill, and we both looked at each other, and Hopkins just, I mean, there were 2 or 3 plays where the defensive back was in perfect position, and we just kind of looked at each other, and they were like, there's literally nothing anyone could have done to stop that play other than a pass interference penalty, which means Ryan Tannehill put the ball exactly where it needed to be, which means DeAndre Hopkins was exactly where he needed to be, and it means he made the play that only DeAndre Hopkins or players of his caliber can make. And it was in the red zone, and I think Easton might have been standing there too. And we were sitting there going like, that guy's different, and Treylon Burks is going to be back. I don't know when, maybe week 1, maybe not. Kyle Phillips, probably a little bit longer, maybe 3, maybe 4, maybe 5 games. We don't know, give or take. There's going to be guys that make this team that aren't supposed to be on the team because of the injuries. But even with that, and maybe 4 tight ends on the roster, they are in a better situation than they were in most of last season because DeAndre Hopkins has already got the rapport he needs with Ryan Tannehill. They're
unstoppable. I mean, you know, it was kind of weird because everybody initially, when talking about when the idea of being able to trade for DeAndre Hopkins came up around, I believe, February or March, whenever it's really truly started, there was a lot of discussion about trading for an older wide receiver. You're probably just trading, then you got to pay him, and then you're probably just trading for a guy that's going to get like 900 yards. And everybody kind of fell into the trap. Like nobody really did not fall into that trap. And then he gets signed, and then you kind of start watching film, and then you kind of start looking at this, and then you kind of start looking at the team, and then he comes into practice, and then it starts going. Then he keeps coming to practice, and it keeps building and building and building. And now, aren't you kind of thinking that instead of like, oh, well, maybe he gets 1,000 yards if he stays healthy, you're kind of thinking, okay, so maybe he's probably going to get 1,300 yards because he's just got this. It's two pros. Like, this is what a wide receiver 1 looks like. And I know we saw this with A.J. Brown and how Ryan Tannehill was able to trust A.J. Brown and force feed him, but he was able to trust A.J. Brown to do something a little bit different than DeAndre Hopkins. It's like
big plays
it's
down
DeAndre
the field.
Hopkins. Yeah. It's almost like DeAndre Hopkins or nothing, right? Like it's like when you're watching these plays, It's like DeAndre Hopkins is gonna get the ball. He's gonna be the first look. And listen, Ryan Tannehill's gonna make some gutsy throws that are gonna make you be like, "What are you doing?" And then DeAndre Hopkins is gonna catch it.
And one of those in red zone was over the middle, exactly like that. But there was nobody else that could make a play. No one could make the play. And I'll try to paint like a little bit of a picture here for like DeAndre Hopkins' routine and why, you and I have talked a lot about why we think he's different than all these other old receivers that have come in.
And it's very clear right now. If you guys are still comparing him to Julio Jones or Andre Johnson or any of these Robert Woods, this is so above and beyond clearly better and different.
So you can tell, one of the things you can tell about DeAndre Hopkins is how particular he is. He when you are around him, like, and I was, when he's in the bubble like that, you're all a lot closer together. There's not 3 fields spread out. You're all a lot closer. So you're closer for warmups, closer for drills, closer on the sidelines, closer after practice when people are talking and interacting. And one of the things, like, DeAndre Hopkins is as particular a human being in everything that he does. And he was kind of this way coming out of Clemson. He has always been, first of all, and this is, just bear with me here, I've got to point to this.
Oh, I'm good.
He's big on, like, he's huge on fashion. Like, everything he does, he's always been big in fashion. I don't understand it. I'm not going to pretend to be anything other than a 41-year-old middle-aged white father. I don't understand. But he is extremely particular about his appearance. He is extremely particular about his style, his vibe, his energy, his fashion sense. He is extremely particular about how he warms up before practice. He does different things than the other guys do. Not in a I'm better than the team kind of way, but I know what my body needs kind of way. He's out there doing like planking like before drills. He's doing particular stretches with bands while other guys are warming up in a more traditional way. Like, he is extremely attention to detail oriented. And it's what's made him a good player. I think it's what makes his body still capable of producing at his age. I don't know what to, like, I don't ever really get caught up in the, like, how many yards is he going to have or how many catches or, like, to me, I don't know, I have no idea. But is he a factor? Is he a number one receiver, like you said? And it's all the attention to detail stuff, how particular he is about everything, that leads me to believe he is going to be as prepared as physically possible to contribute as best as possible at his age for this offense. And that's just sort of a vibe you pick up from watching him be himself, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense, because the older you get, the more comfortable technically in your skin you become. Now, it's not for everybody. Not insecurities can also exasperate, but sometimes you just get to a level where you're comfortable with who you are. You don't need all this extra stuff. You just need this. And so DeAndre Hopkins has been in the league, and he's got this dedication that I'm not saying that nobody else has had that has come in here, because everybody has their own different forms of dedication. But the way that he has played the game, he has had to be dedicated in a different way that doesn't rely on athleticism. He's not Tyreek Hill, right? Like, Tyreek Hill has the natural God-given ability to be able to burn anybody and make anybody look foolish. Does not mean that he does not practice his routes or anything like that, but everybody knows that Tyreek Hill is a certain kind of receiver, and DeAndre Hopkins is a different kind of receiver. We talked about this talking about Julio Jones. How he plays the game, he's required, if he wants to maintain a high level, and he's got a chip on his shoulder. Do not underestimate the chip on your shoulder that he has. And technically, while he's still under contract next year, he is still playing for a contract, possibly extension next year from the Tennessee Titans, who hold on to his rights, stuff like that. He is playing for that. He has something to prove. We've seen his tweets dogging people that have said that he doesn't practice, or dogging the people that dogged Ryan Tannehill. He has something to prove. It all comes down to availability. And it sounds like, to me, the stuff he is doing at practice, before drills, or before the planks, the other stuff that he is doing to take care of his body, is going to go a long way in helping that. Can that overcome the Titans' bad luck? I do not know. This aura surrounding the Tennessee Titans, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Julio Jones didn't do any of this stuff.
Yeah. But if you're walking into week 1 versus the Saints with DeAndre Hopkins, Derrick Henry, Ryan Tannehill, Chig Okonkwo, and the entire offensive line, hopefully it's Murray instead of Hubbard, but the entire offensive line, that is okay. Like,
you're better than last year.
You're way better than last year.
Yeah.
And I fully agree with that. And it's because of what they've been able to build, because DeAndre Hopkins has been available. And I think he's been at every training camp practice but 2. So he's been building chemistry with Ryan Tannehill. Yeah. And so that's why I don't think I need to see Ryan Tannehill playing a preseason game.
No, I don't think so.
I don't need DeAndre Hopkins to play in a preseason game.
No.
Keep them bubble wrapped and just go.
No, I think and again, I'm not suggesting that, like, watching a guy stretch is going to somehow indicate, like, what he's going to do on the field this year. It's more about just that he's also extremely particular about how he talks, who he talks to, and when he talks.
Oh, yeah, that was shown up. I think it was the Vikings practice, and
he is just very particular. Everything is planned and orchestrated. His image, his outward appearance, the words he chooses to use, how he prepares for each practice. Like, and I just think, to me, you put it all together into his, and then look at his career.
I hope everybody's taking notes, like all the wide receivers.
Yeah. Now, again, some personalities are bigger and brasher and more flamboyant, and they function better when they're, when Jeffrey Simmons is mixing it up and throwing, like, that's his personality, and I want him to be himself. And I think Hopkins is a far more reserved, careful person. Like, he is just very careful. And I think that when you package that with his career, you package that with sort of the anecdotal practice habits and preparation habits and warm-up habits, you package that with sort of how he's always presenting himself in a very specific way. I think you put all of that together, and you sort of gain some insight into who he is and what drives him. And I think to me, that's attention to detail, very particular, very specific on what he wants to do. And to me, that says he's ready to go. to your point, can he overcome all the history of the injuries? I mean, Kyle Phillips and Traylon Burks are already hurt. Like it's a real curse that's here. And who knows if he overcomes that. But these are the things you do not notice at all about Julio Jones. And it's not a knock on Julio at that time.
Well, sort of is.
But it's just, but you're also, they use different skills to have successful careers. And so you look at the other guy. I wasn't around when Randy Moss was here. I wasn't around, I barely was covering the team when Andre Johnson was here for that 1 year, basically. So I don't have as much insight into that, but I've worked with Derek Mason for a long time. And I know how particular Derek Mason is about taking care of his body at this age and when he was playing. And you can just see it. It's a more evolved. It's not like the same old exercises, right? Like D-Mace does a lot of stuff today to keep in shape that is like calisthenics and yoga and these movement stuff. And that's what you see Hopkins doing in warmups. It's not the traditional stuff. It's like the new age stuff. So anyway, long story short, and oh, by the way, then he goes out and you can't cover him in red zone practice. so like it's right there. I think they're better off than they were last year, even if Burks misses some time. It does appear.
To be honest, I think he's back by week 1.
I know you've said that. I lean more conservative on letting him make sure he's fully healthy. And if that means week 2 or 3, I'm fine with that. Same thing with Phillips.
I don't think he's as hurt right now. And I think giving him 25 days of rest or 21 days and some practice, I think that's going to be enough for Burks.
It might be. And I guess my point is they are still
even
improved.
Without him, they're still good.
Even without him, they're improved and are capable of winning a couple of those early games. I still think they're 2-4 in the first 6. I'm not changing my pick on that. But I think as long as they're healthy coming out of the Ravens game and the trip to London and the bye week, they can win a lot of games in that second half. A lot of football games in the second half. So, all right, that's some positive stuff. Are we going back negative here? Brought to you by Sinkers Beverages and the Kingston Group. We talked on Monday about Malik Willis's performance in the game, largely a missed opportunity for him at the time. He then comes back, and first and foremost, Will Levis looked healthy. So that's the good news, is he looked like it was pretty minor, as we said.
I believe Liam Cohen had said that he was told, I guess, by Will Levis that it was a quad injury. So take that for what you will.
There you go. I would say,
and that was reported. I guess Paul Karski caught that in another interview. So good for him.
Okay, good job. And had the MCL issue for Kyle Phillips as well. Mm-hmm. So PK doing work. I think there's one thing here, which is like Levis is going to be fine. That's a good physically. He's going to be fine. That's the backdrop, in my opinion, for the Patriots game after watching Willis for 2 days in practice. And I don't want to put too much. I love watching people's mannerisms on the sidelines, man. I love it when something happens. So they're in a 2-minute drill after what was a pretty bad practice on Thursday. Willis misses. Sorry?
Wednesday.
This was sorry. Today's Thursday. Yes, Wednesday. Yeah. Sorry, Wednesday. And they're in a 2-minute, and Willis basically completely misses a throw of a pretty open receiver. And Rand Carthon is standing there kind of next to the media, and he's got his arms crossed, and he does that thing where like a quarterback makes a bad throw, and you see this guy, he goes,
an eye roll is not for those that are not watching. Basically,
yes.
You have your arms folded, and it's one of those things where the eye roll is not enough. The eye roll is so powerful.
You're looking to the heavens.
It makes your head move with your eyes.
And it was subtle, but I was looking right at him because I just saw the miss. So they were in the line of sight, and I look at Rand, and you can just see him. It looked like God, okay, all right, this is not my guy. Now, again, that's one facial expression after one throw. So let's not go crazy here. But he made every easy throw more difficult on Wednesday.
Just can't help it. That's just what he does.
A 5-yard out route on the red zone is thrown way back and up and behind the receiver so that the defensive back can make a play on the ball. He throws it over the middle, and it's just a little couple inches too high and a little too hard, and nobody can make the play. He's just off by a little bit all the time. Every throw on Wednesday was just off, and the 2-minute drill wasn't particularly good. there was a couple other players we can talk about. Like, I know we want to talk about receivers. Kearis Jackson had a wide open drop that really is not going to help him at all in the 2-minute drill.
I just don't think that there's a wide receiver 6 on this team. But this Malik Willis thing, I think he's just in his head at this point. Like, I think he knows, despite what Malik Willis believers and truthers say, and despite what some in the media have deemed a pretty good performance against the Vikings game, I think once the tape was rewatched with everybody in a room privately, I think that is what you're seeing is the effect of that meeting, that rewatch of the tape with Mike Vrabel in the room. And I think Malik Willis knows that there is a good chance that he is going to lose the quarterback 2 spot almost immediately to Will Levis when the first depth chart comes out. And I think he's in his head. I don't think he's going to get out of his head, because I don't think that while he is a nice guy with a good heart in his chest beating, I don't think he's mentally tough.
Well, and I'll two things. I don't know if he's mentally tough or not about this. I don't know if he's in his own head. I don't know for sure about any of those things. I said after going into the first preseason game, I thought Will Levis was already ahead of him. Coming out of the preseason game, everyone wanted to rave about Willis. I still said I think Malik Willis, that I think Will Levis was still quarterback 2. Going into
thought it got a little bit closer.
Yeah, exactly. That's fine. That's fair. And that's a good thing. This is lost in this whole conversation, is this would be a great thing for them to be basically dead even here, because it gives them a good chance at having a starter and a quality backup next year when Tannehill's not here. But I don't think it's ever been Willis. I don't think Willis has ever been ahead of Will Levis. At any point during camp, I have not seen a player who is better than Will Levis. Now, it doesn't mean Will Levis is some perfect player. Like, he's got major issues he's got to work through and needs to get better at this and that and the other thing, and accuracy and handling the snap. Like, there's lots of things Will Levis needs to do better. But it just is, and this is,
I think the best way to put it is that
it's not personal, but it's not good.
But if you watch the Bears game and then you look at them, they're both on the field at the same time, running with similar personnel issues or lack of quality personnel. Will Levis looks like a potential NFL quarterback. We have seen Malik Willis in preseason last year, regular season last year, preseason this year. And while he had good moments in the Bears game where you saw the glimpses, he still put the ball on the ground too much. He still took way too long to throw it. He still threw interceptions. And you come into the next week and he's still throwing interceptions, still putting the ball on the ground.
Got worse.
It got worse, and he got slower. I do not see, unfortunately, a potential NFL quarterback. And I think that when it's all said and done, maybe depending on this injury issue, or let's see what happens in a preseason game, how much does he play? Because if Will Levis doesn't play a lot because of injury, maybe he doesn't play a lot because they're saving him. I think there is a very good chance that Will Levis is quarterback 2 when the cutdowns are made and the depth chart comes out. I think Will Levis is quarterback 2.
And I've stood by that from the beginning. I think that's what's going to happen. Now, I will say this does not mean you do anything with Malik Willis. Like,
right.
Malik Willis they both need to be on the team going into camp next year. Like, 1,000,000% you have to have both.
Unless something crazy happens, right? Like, unless something crazy like this would be a crazy thing. Trey Lance's cut, right? Trey Lance's cut. He clears waivers, and then you have the opportunity to sign him. Then, yeah, I would sign Trey Lance and cut Malik Willis. Like, but that's a very long shot of a situation. But that would have to be what happened. A quarterback gets cut, clears waivers, and is kind of there for a week, and you know that he's better than Will Levis, but not anything great. That's about it.
Here's what I think. Let me see if I
You'd only cut Will Levis if you had an option coming onto your roster.
Willis, yeah, Willis.
Sorry, Willis.
Here's what I would say. Again, trying to be careful here.
Yeah.
Watch Atlanta's quarterback. And if Atlanta's quarterback shows you how to run an NFL offense. Doesn't mean he's going to be great. Doesn't mean he's going to throw a bunch of touchdowns. Doesn't mean the stats are going to be there or the wins. But does he look like he understands the situation and knows how to manage the entirety of an NFL offense? Just remember where that player was selected in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
I
don't want to take a too early victory lap.
I just want to point out
Sam Howell looking pretty good.
That's my victory lap. I'm the one who said he had the best arm in the draft.
I said the same thing about Sam Howell. We were simpatico. I'm saying the victory lap is for both of
us. Okay, good. Yeah, I think he's got the best arm.
Simpatico on this show about Sam Howell should be a Tennessee Titan over any of them.
Samuelito has the best arm of anybody in the draft last year. I don't think it's even close. What I'm saying is that if you remember where Desmond Ridder was picked, I think it was 3, maybe 4 spots.
Yeah,
ahead of Malik Willis.
Well, don't forget Sam Howell was like 2 rounds after both of them.
I know. I just want to point out that there was another quarterback taken 4 picks earlier that is starting for Atlanta this year, and I want fans to notice how much he understands the game and gets the game and manages the game. That's all.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. The same thing with Sam Howell, right? Like you're looking at 2 quarterbacks that could have been there for the Tennessee Titans have they decided to make a move up ahead of Atlanta, or decide to wait and draft maybe Sam Howell at a later time, that look right now light years ahead of Malik Willis. Like, there's no easy way to put it. Malik Willis does not look as good as Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, or Sam Howell. He does not look as good as Dorian Taylor or DTR. Is it Dorian Taylor Robinson? Did I get that right?
Dorian Thompson Robinson.
I knew Taylor didn't sound right.
That dude played
DTR. He looks fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
He looks great.
Just
saying.
I think they wanted Desmond Ridder.
Oh, well, I'm sure they did.
That's what I'm trying to say here.
But my thing is that you shouldn't, if someone else takes Desmond Ridder, you shouldn't just automatically panic and take Malik Willis.
I agree, and I think that is a very good point. Anyway, either way, you still want Willis to be a quality cheap backup next year for Will Levis. That is still the goal. Like he's still too talented to let go and to give up on. Guys take time developing. He's just in a slump. You let him develop. You keep him on as a backup. There's worse ways to make a living if you're Malik Willis, and he's got a chance to continue to grow and get better. He's got too big of an arm and too much athletic ability to not keep him on the roster as your backup quarterback for next year, assuming that Will Levis is your starter. And if he's healthy, I would like to see Will Levis play the entire game.
Yeah, I am 100% with you. I've seen enough of Malik Willis.
Yep. Okay, speaking of the game. Speaking of the Patriots game, I am fascinated with the receiving core. We've talked about that ad nauseum. Who's going to take those roles? Probably not Mason Kinsey, but we'll see.
I don't think that they are carrying at the initial cut down day. I do not think there will be 6 wide receivers kept. What I think is going to happen is that they're probably going to They're probably going to sign someone, or then put Kyle Phillips on IR and then bring someone up. If that is even a possibility, they may keep Kyle Phillips on if it's not as bad as what we all perceive in our head or imagine in our head. Because
is it 4 games?
It's 4 games if he goes on IR automatically. Now, if he can be back by week 2 or week 3, there may not, because you'll be heading into the start of week 4 on game day.
I bet you he's
opening day.
I bet you he's on IR.
I don't think so.
And here's who's automatically on the team: Reggie Roberson.
You think so? You think that is the guy?
Yeah.
He just hasn't done shit in preseason.
I think he's on the team because I think they assume
you think
Phillips
he's making the team regardless.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep.
I don't know if I could get. I don't know if I'll. And maybe if I find myself doing my final 53 after the preseason game, I find myself like at 52 players. I'm like, well, who's got to be 53?
To me, right now, assuming Phillips is on IR. He is the number 5 receiver on the team, Reggie Roberson. I think it's pretty clear because everyone else has not taken, like, he's the most consistent, best performer from practice to game, back to practice, back to game. he has been here, and my hands are up about my face here for those listening on the podcast. He has had a certain level of performance at all practices. Other guys have had flashes. Colton Dowell is not it right now. He's not it. He drops too many passes, doesn't make enough plays.
It's down to Roberson and Kearis Jackson.
Kearis Jackson dropped too many passes in practice this week, in my opinion. Now, maybe he has a great game on Friday, and that changes the perception. But I think Reggie Roberson has earned his way on to the team well ahead of everybody else. I think Jackson would be your number 6. That would be my guess right now. And then everybody else is after that. I think Roberson is ahead of the pack pretty clearly, in my opinion. But we'll see.
That's interesting. I mean, I just love to see it. I'd love to see it in a preseason game just once. I mean, just give it to me once.
Yep. It's the other thing is the tight end group will be interesting. The running back room is interesting. Chestnut feels like he's on the team. Hassan Haskins, maybe he's on the team.
He shouldn't be. I mean, he does nothing.
I agree. We have not talked about Corey Davis. If he does, I know there were rumors that he could get cut by the Jets. I don't know if that's happened.
Oh my God,
did that just happen?
No, he retired yesterday.
Oh, he retired yesterday? Holy shit! Damn,
he retired yesterday.
I was watching Hard Knocks last night. I was a little late to the party.
Yeah, he retired midday on Tuesday, or right in the 2:00 hour.
My bad.
Tuesday.
And then
Wednesday.
So I think they could go get somebody, but honestly, like we've already talked about, I think they're better than they were last year. So the other one I really want to watch is Alize Mack. This is a 5-star recruit that went to Notre Dame, big time athlete. He's one of the few guys that can really run down the field and make plays at the tight end position. Was really good in the XFL. I think it's him and Thomas Odukoya, depending on how they're allowed to use the international slot.
So here's how the international slot works.
Yeah.
It works like normal for the final 53. But on the practice squad, if you cut your guy, he clears waivers and you're able to get him back on your practice squad, you can label him exempt and you can carry an extra practice squad player.
Okay.
But if he makes the final 53, he counts towards the final 53.
Okay.
That was your question when we were off there.
Yeah. So I wanted to know how that works because I had some conflicting, like I was talking to like multiple different media people and we didn't know the exact rule on how it worked.
And that is according to Wikipedia. By the way, Jordan Mailata, or I can never pronounce his last name, but the Eagles offensive lineman, how lucky are they that he came through that? That's how they got him. It's just the luck of the draw. It's just crazy.
That's totally wild. Easton says he will eat Stoney shorts if Hassan Haskins makes this team. That's too early of a reference for you, Easton. You're too young for that. Here's the thing. Thomas Odukoya seems like the number 4 best tight end on the roster. I talked to a few people that are convinced that Kevin Rader is going to make the team and that Odukoya is going to keep that international slot on the practice squad like you're talking about. I also think Alize Mack is in the conversation. So you could have 3 guys battling for one spot on Friday against the Patriots. That's really interesting to me because they all do very different things.
But does Odukoya and Rader do something different? Because to me, they seem like they're the same guy. And if I'm going after the guy that is punishing defenders and looking for work and wanting the spot over Kevin Rader, who has been non-existent outside of special team snaps, and these guys can play special teams. Maybe they need a different coach to coach them how to play special teams, but they can play special teams.
And I know you guys mentioned this on F Words. Monty Rice, is he? Him and Haskins,
I think he's gone. I mean, like I think both him and Haskins are gone. And when I don't know if you've read Stacking the Inbox today, but Stacking the Inbox today, I revisited the 2021 class, and I put out the night that Monty Rice got drafted, shortly after a trade back, shortly after Dylan Radins got drafted.
Whew.
All in the same night. It was a whirlwind of emotions when Monty Rice, I put out quote tweet after quote tweet after quote tweet of the Broadway sports media coverage. And I posed the question, and I had all the little A to Z boys saying I was an idiot for even posing the question that if this draft class and this particular trade does not work out, the moves made on day 2 does not work out, that John Robinson would be on the hot seat. Come lo and behold, John Robinson would have been on the hot seat, but
John Robinson's not on the hot seat right now.
on that right now, but we're also talking back then. So thanks for interrupting and ruining it. Like kind of like the January 6th thing. I was on a roll. So you just gotta let people talk sometimes. That I look at it and I'm thinking this draft class is almost a carbon copy of the 2020 draft class. That's what I was trying to explain. You can't have two really bad back-to-back draft classes. And that's part of the reason why he got fired is because ultimately the A.J. Brown trade was the nail in the coffin. But these two back-to-back draft classes, specifically that one, was terrible. Terrible. Elijah Molden and Rashad Weaver are your saving graces for a draft class that ultimately is terrible. Terrible, terrible, terrible. And Monty Rice wasn't a good pick then. He turned into an even worse pick than I even imagined. And he's not making this team. And Hassan Haskins should also not be making this team. And that is with the alleged charges aside. I'm not even including those because he's just not that good.
Yeah, he's not good to keep with charges. That's for sure. He's not good enough to keep two charges. Javar says Malik's stats look better if they catch the football. He made one bad decision coming out of college. They said it was going to take 2 to 3 years. He's on schedule. A couple of things I'll agree with and disagree with there. I agree that he's kind of on schedule, and we need to constantly reiterate that this guy was barely a top 100 pick, so he shouldn't be held to the same standards as first-round draft picks. He should be held to the 97th or 96th overall draft pick standard, which is at the quarterback position, a total crapshoot, and yes, possibly a development, but he didn't make just one bad decision. He constantly cannot hit the target accurately. He's fumbled the ball 3 times, thrown 2 interceptions, and a big chunk of his production came against 3rd and 4th string players for the Vikings in the second half, where he should have been better.
He struggled doing that.
He should have been better in the second half. So anyway, it's not personal. It's just, yes, there is some time there for him to be developing. I think he don't think on schedules how I would describe it. I would say he needs to be a little bit better. He needs to show some growth. Anyway, Monty Rice, I don't know about Monty Rice. I think I agree with Haskins. I feel pretty comfortable saying I just don't think it's not worth the risk of keeping him on the team and the PR and just stand for something.
Just not good. Anybody can do what he does on special teams, but also provide you value somewhere else in another phase of the game. He provides you no value on offense.
4th, 5th defensive lineman, corner, safety, backups, Mike Brown, Eric Garrer. Who else are you interested to keep an eye on and maybe win a job? Caleb Murphy, I know you're not on board with him making the team. Who are the other players you think can actually make their? I'm of the belief that I was going to say I'm of the belief that we talk about a lot of these guys that kind of flash and have big games, but that the coaching staff sort of knows who their guys are going into the last couple of games almost every year.
I'm with you. That's why I'm not a big believer in the Caleb Murphy hype train as it stands right now. And how I likened it to was I really liked T.R. Tart when he was an undrafted free agent his rookie year. I really like Caleb Murphy, but I also understand they both have holes in their games at the time that they were rookies and undrafted free agents. That's what practice squad is for. So I think Caleb Murphy is going to make it to the practice squad, and I think he's going to clear waivers to make it to the practice squad. I'm not too concerned. I'm not concerned about anybody being cut on this team and some team just jumping at the chance to get them. Yep. In fact, when the final 53, typically the cuts are made, I would have to go back and look, but I would say all 32 teams barely make any waiver claims throughout the process. And I think that happened last year where there's only like 2 or 3 waiver claims were put in. Pretty much everybody becomes a free agent, and then there you go.
Yep.
But I'm interested to see what the wide receiver 6 situation looks like. We know the 5 that are making the final 53 because of how the rules work. We know that it's Nick Westbrook-Kine. We know that's Chris Moore. We know that's Kyle Phillips. We know that's Traylon Burks. We know it's DeAndre Hopkins. We know it's those 5. I want to see the 6th wide receiver. I want to see what Garrer. I want to see what if Chestnut can keep his momentum, though I think he's a lock. But I want to see what Garrer can do. I want to see what this Patrick Jocks guy can do in another week. I also want to
Jaquez Patrick.
Oh, just Jaquez Patrick. I thought that was another player. Then I want to see if Shaheem Carter can make this team. I really thought he was going to make the team last year, and he didn't. They chose to go with AJ Moore, and what a disaster that was for them.
Yeah.
And I want to see what Shaheem Carter can do, because I think he provides you a little bit more than Mike Brown in the athleticism department. I think Mike Brown is an instinctual player, but I also want to see what the rest. I'll call them the crackerbacks. Well, all these little white linebackers do, because someone can separate themselves from it. The crackerbacks. I want to see what these guys can do to separate themselves from each other. I mean, because they're all the same guy, right?
Well,
I mean,
and even Ben Neiman
looked really bad last week. In my opinion, all of them looked bad. All the crackerbacks looked bad.
Even Ben Neiman is a crackerback.
Yeah, because everybody's talking about Otis Reese making the team, and he's like, he doesn't shy away from contact, but he has like 2 tackles through 2 games. So tell me how he doesn't shy away from. He ain't looking for work. So I don't know. This linebacker position is a little messy right now.
I think it's the weakest. I think it's the least talented position on the roster. But all you might need is a great Al-Shaair, and then you can roll Molden up into the box, and he can kind of function as like a 2.5 third-ish backer. And then all you need is to find one guy for one spot. And then if you can do that, then maybe you're fine. But I think it's the thinnest position on the team from a talent perspective. So, otherwise, I'm just so ready for actual football to be here. So,
that's why I'm ready for week 0.
Week 0. So, quick note before we get to that: Sinkers Beverages, Kingston Group, by the way, support local businesses. Sinkers Beverages, the liquor store of the year in Nashville in 2022, trying to repeat this year. So go up there, sign up for the in crowd, get your name on the list. They don't, they're not going to call you or bother you, but if there's cool stuff, they'll give you some. They'll give you some allocations and some early access to special tastings and special events. And obviously, Bluegrass's 50th anniversary on September 2nd coming up in a couple of weeks. Make sure you are there. Yes, Zach Lyons.
Another trade has happened. So earlier today, the Arizona Cardinals traded away Isaiah Simmons to some team for 7th round pick. The Giants. The Giants for 7th round pick. And I've seen a lot of people clamor for the Titans to trade for Josh Jones, an offensive tackle, who is losing his job to Paris Johnson. And the Cardinals are sending offensive tackle Josh Jones, who had 11 starts last year, to the Houston Texans. Per league sources, Jones is in the final year of his rookie contract. Now, this is the same Houston Texans that signed vaunted free agent, coveted free agent, George Fant, who has done a lick of nothing. This is similar to Chris Hubbard, who I said they were the same one. But this leads me to believe that Titus Howard may be out a little bit longer than what everybody expected.
Yep. Yeah, I think that would be a fair assessment. Okay, Jason McDonald asks, any watch parties planned? As of right now, at Bluegrass Beverages in Hendersonville, college football's first Saturday, September 2nd. I think it's like noon to 4. It's free. There's breweries out there, and there's going to be food trucks out there. It's free to get in, and TVs will be set up to watch college football on September 2nd. So if anybody wants to come, Zach's going to be there, and maybe some other distinguished Titans dignitaries. Who knows? We shall see who's going to be there. That'll be for the Tennessee-Virginia game and any other college football games that are on at that time. As far as Titans watch parties go, stay tuned. We'll see what we can put together for you guys.
Yeah.
How about that? Stay tuned. We might do what we did for the draft, where we can all get a small group together and maybe have a good time there at Sinkers offices in Wedgwood, Houston. Okay, football is here because week 0 is technically here.
Where do you stand on calling it week 0?
I mean, there's only like an 8th
week 1
in theory, but it's not week 1 for like 90% of the sport.
Gotcha.
So I don't mind calling it like it's, how you call them preseason games in the NFL. It's sort of like having
a Hall of Fame game.
It's kind of like that, but I like that they don't put anything super serial on the schedule. But it's enough to like whet the appetite. And so you get Sam Hartman at Notre Dame, who could be the best quarterback, in 25 years for Notre Dame. He could be good enough to make them very dangerous this year. They play a lot of meaningful games against really big time teams. They play USC, they play Ohio State, they play Clemson, teams that are going to try to make the playoff. So keep an eye on Sam Hartman. What does he do for Notre Dame in week 0, I should say. Sorry. USC plays San Jose State. That's not a really huge game. USC is going to win by a lot, but San Jose State's got an interesting offense. And what you care about if you're watching USC is how good is the defense this year? Mm-hmm. Are they actually anything worth watching? And of course, SEC Network, 6:30 Central Standard God's time. What does Vanderbilt's football stadium look like on television?
Well, I'm interested. I'm those are the three game or I'm interested in the Ireland game first and foremost. I know that we mainly cover the SEC, but I am so interested in Sam Hartman in Notre Dame in Ireland. I want to see it. I can't wait to see what the crowd is like. I can't wait to see what the stadium is like. I think it's awesome. The Fighting Irish in Ireland. I love it. I'm there for it. I'm tuned in. It's at an appropriate time, 1:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's not some weird, like night game or something,
or 8:30 a.m.
Yeah. Like I'm in. I'm all in. I'm excited. I love it. And then I would put the Vanderbilt game behind that one because I think you learn more about Vanderbilt than you probably will from USC in their game. But I am interested to see what USC looks like. Can they beat down on both sides of the ball the opposing team? So I'm all in.
There you go. Pretty Boy Lipschitz asks, who wins the AAC, not the ACC? Tulane is your heavy favorite. Quarterback Michael Pratt is really, really good. That's Tajay Spears' former backfield mate. UTSA, as Stoney said, is the second most important team in that conference. Those are probably your top two teams in the league. They're going to play, I believe, in the final game of the regular season, which is not good scheduling by the AAC. But more importantly, UTSA at Tennessee in Neyland Stadium, week 3. That is not as easy. No Tennessee fans really know how good that UTSA team is. So
yeah, I'm also here for Memphis winning the AAC.
Okay, there you have it.
That's pure homerism.
That's fine. Unadulterated homerism is part of the game. It's part of the sport. So there you have it. If you'd like to ask any more college football questions, I've got a lot of other college football platforms you can ask me. Don't wait till the very, very, very end. Yes, Pretty Boy, Cincinnati is not even in the AAC anymore. They are in the Big 12. They'll be playing totally different teams, sort of like how Corey Davis is not playing football anymore.
Yes.
Although that was like a year and a half ago. I feel like yesterday I get a little leeway.
Yeah, you get a little bit of leeway.
F Words Pod. Make sure you check that out across all the video and Twitter and YouTube platforms, as well as the podcast platform as well. You got all the other great shows across the 440 Sports Network and Broadway Sports Media, Music City Audible. You got the Paul Karski podcast. You got SEC Football Live. You got the Gold Standard covering the Preds, Club and Country talking in Nashville SC with a record-breaking month of downloads because of, that's right, Mr. Messi as well. And football season's here, boys. We got one more preseason game. Then you got college football on Labor Day weekend, and then the NFL is here. So get ready. For Zach Lyons, I am Braden Gall. For Sinkers Beverages and the Kingston Group, we do appreciate it. You guys have a great weekend. We'll be back on Monday to break it all down for you. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you then. Have a good one, everybody.